There we go. So yeah, I guess we'll talk about juggling. Juggling's always fun because there's always different things happening at all given points.
That's true. We
Now,
do.
all right, we're live. Yeah, look at
We're
that.
live. Wow. Oh my gosh. Just a few minutes ago, Scott and I were talking about juggling. The concept of juggling actually is kind of what we're doing in your life, my life, Scott's life. We juggle almost every day something. And so, like when you start juggling, if you decide to start juggling, you got to first decide what you're going to juggle, right? I mean, and that's the first key. It's like, are you going to start with a scarf? Okay. And some people start with scarves learning how to juggle and they throw it in the air and it's a little slower than a ball.
Oh,
Yeah,
people start with scarves.
some, some, I don't, for little kids, the ones because they're hard, they can hardly catch a ball. So, but I find for myself, maybe because I learned on my own years and years ago, uh, balls are easier for me to teach in again, but the kids, like if they're too young, if they can't catch a ball. So we got to start wherever we're at. And that's the same way with everything in life. Wherever you're at, that's where you're at. It doesn't matter where you want to be, it matters where you are now. And then you have to decide, are you going to do whatever you're going to do? Just like if you're going to learn to juggle, you have to decide that you want to, and then you have to put effort in it. Without effort and without practice, you're never going to become better at juggling or maybe never even learn. So the first thing you got to do, decide if you want to juggle. The next thing you're going to do is either do it on your own. And a lot of people just start picking up fruit out of their basket in the house, potatoes or anything around, they throw it up in the air. That's fine because the first thing you got to do if you're going to catch something around, you got to catch it. And a lot of people, after they throw
Start
it,
with one.
that is, it really is the first step. And there's some people in the world will probably never learn how to juggle because depth perception. Sometimes their eyes are messed up and they can't see it. Yet I believe most anyone in the world, if they really want to juggle, they probably could with enough effort. Next thing is, uh, again, what are you going to decide to work on first? Are you going to do it by yourself? Now, if you're going to do it by yourself, are you just going to just do it? I'm just like Nike. We're just going to do it. So you grab something, and no matter what you want to grab. The definition of juggling actually is when you have more objects than hands. So you could potentially just juggle in one hand. There's also jugglers who only have one hand and they can juggle. And there's professional one-handed jugglers. Not a whole bunch of them, but they're out there. So first thing, are you going to learn on your own? Are you going to get some, go to the internet, find a video on how to juggle, or just blast it out? And when I was a kid, I just blasted it out. I thought, oh, I'm going to learn to juggle and I'm going to learn to juggle. I'm just going to do it. I'm going to do it. And I did after a long time. It took me a long time in high school to learn how to juggle. But if somebody would have given me the shortcuts, I can teach most people really how to juggle in 5 minutes. Not all people, but most people can learn how to juggle. At least what we call juggling is like if you're a juggler, we kind of say when you can do one round of three balls or three objects and you catch all of them, and then you're considered a juggler. Probably not a good juggler, but you're a juggler. And which is good because there's a lot of benefits to being able to juggle. Is It helps your coordination. It helps you get rid of. It helps your gray matter in your brain. It helps anything you learn, anything at all you learn. It's easier to learn something else. So when you learn to juggle, then it becomes easier to balance. And when you balance, it's easier to juggle. So whatever skill you're learning usually helps the next skill. Okay, so let's go back to the basics. First, you got to decide if you want to juggle. And let's just go. we'll just go with balls because you're going to have to choose what you're going to start with. And you could start with scarves, you could start with balls, you could start with knives, but that would be a little bit more scary.
But with pins.
Ken, so yes, and it's going to be the same thing. When you learn balls, when you grab a pin, it's not going to be the same object, and it's going to be learning a process all over. Yet you have a jump on it because you already know how to juggle. So let's just say we're teaching people how to juggle with a ball. The first thing we say as a juggling coach to you, or a happiness coach, or whatever, or anything in life, it doesn't even have to be juggling. Whatever you're going to do in life, you got to take that first step and decide what you're going to use. And we're using balls at this time. So you get a ball, and a juggler catches. Okay. When you throw it in there and catch it, that's just toss and catch. And then a lot of people play baseball, a lot of people do football. There, any kind of ball, anything you catch, that's a start. So you get where you can do it 10 times without a drop. This is the practice. So you get it where you can do it 10 times without a drop, and then we go to the next step. Then we're going to introduce our other hand. Okay. Now we're going to take whatever object we're juggling and we're going to throw it to the other hand and we're going to catch it. Okay. And then we're going to throw it back to this hand and catch it. We're going to throw it back for 10 times without a drop, and then we're going to go the next step. Okay. Uh, so now we get another ball. Now we got two balls. And our next step here is throw, catch, throw. So we throw. And we're making kind of like a McDonald M. Or you can consider a box. Look, you can sit a box and you're throwing your ball to the corner of each box. So you're trying to get them about the same length when you're throwing them. Boop, bloop, bloop, bloop. And now you got two. Now, the third step to learning this juggling is to grab another ball. Now, in theory, if you just wanted to do this, you could put the other ball in that hand. Now you got two balls and you throw it up, and that's juggling because you're using more objects in hands. But most people think of a cascade. That's what we teach first in juggling. So now we're going to put two balls in your dominant hand, whatever hand that is to you. And then we're going to do the same thing we did, and we're not even going to throw it. Nothing. You just got two balls in one hand and one in the other. And you're just going to do the same thing you did before, getting the feel of that third ball. Okay. Then the next step, you're going to do that 10 times till you don't drop. Then you're going to do the next step. Now, all you're doing now is you're trying to, or you're working on, you throw that ball, throw this ball, and you just want to get this one in the air, out of your hand, no matter what. And it might, it could be very hard for some people, and it could be very easy for some people. So that's the next step. It's you got to just get it out of this hand, okay? And when you get it out of that hand, then you keep doing that till you can do it consistently. And as you're doing that, you're going to try to throw it to the other hand. So if you go and you got two in your right hand, throw, 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 and you catch all three, that's a round. So you're a juggler now. So then what you want to do is you want to throw it and see if you can get another round. And so every three times you toss it is a round. So there's two and then three. And after a while you can do, 6 or 8 throws, 9 throws, and you just keep on getting. And sooner or later, this is just like us when we're teaching unconscious competence, you'll finally at one point get where it's easier, and it gets easier and easier and easier. And then after a while, you don't even have to look at them, because if you're going to become a professional juggler, you don't want to be looking at your balls most of the time. You're looking forward with peripheral vision, so you don't have to do that. Because when you advance to clubs or knives or anything else, when you're passing these clubs or knives with a partner, you want to be able not to worry about the club or the knife that's not hitting the person in the middle. Okay.
So we would say it's all about getting skilled.
Right. And also it's all about the same thing with life. Anything you're doing, it's just like juggling. You got to decide if you're going to do it. You got to decide what you're going to use to do it. Then you have to decide
Probably find someone
the
who's done
steps.
it before.
Right, that's what I was saying. You could go to the internet and they could teach you something like I just taught you, because if you work on your own, 90% of all the people who never juggled and think they're juggling, they've seen some kind of thing on the internet where somebody's doing a a, a shower. That's where they just go around in a circle and they're throwing. But what we're teaching right here is a
That's
cascade.
called the shower. If it does
Yeah,
a circle.
yeah. So
All right.
if you see pictures of clowns or jugglers, you see balls going in a circle like that, and that's a that's a shower. A cascade is when they go like this.
Zigzag. Yeah.
Yeah, and the other ones throw from one hand to the next. Now, most people try to toss over to here and throw like that, and that's what we don't teach at first because that's a harder pattern.
Hmm.
Some people learn that. What I was saying for myself, it took me a long time to learn to juggle when I was a kid because nobody taught me. But if you go and watch somebody juggle, it like I said, in about 5 to 10 minutes, you can get the
So
basic how to
you
juggle.
could use the model of four levels of learning with this,
Yeah,
right? So the first one is
yeah,
I don't know what I don't know, right?
yeah.
That's the
You don't
first
know
level.
what you don't know, and then you got to decide when you know you don't know it. Do you want to know it? Because
Yeah. So that's the
if you
second
right,
step. Like
yeah,
I want to learn how to do
I
this,
want to
right?
learn it. Now you have to figure out what is the first step again, how to learn. And the first step in juggling is to decide what you're going to juggle. Then you do all the little ease process. First, you go figure out what you're going to juggle, whatever that is. Then you're going to have to be able to at least catch it. And this is not juggling yet. This is just learning how to catch whatever you're going to juggle. That then after that, the process keeps on going. Now you're going to have to incorporate another object in this hand or bring this other hand in. Again, now you only have one object and you got two hands. So this isn't juggling, this is toss and catch. But then when you bring a second one in, it's still toss and catch. Okay. But when you bring that third in, then it becomes juggling again, unless you did two in one hand and two in one hand. But the process, like you said, is you don't know what you don't know till you know you don't know it.
So
And then,
let's just
yes.
go over it because we're NLP nerds.
Okay.
We have unconscious competence.
Now that's at the top.
Oh, unconscious
That's after you
incompetence.
learned everything. You don't even.
Unconscious incompetence. You don't know what you don't know, right? Like, oh, this person's doing this thing. I didn't even know this thing was possible. Let's figure out how to learn this thing. Whatever it is, it doesn't have to be juggling.
Here's a perfect example of that. You'll talk to some people in the world and they say, I can't juggle. Now, most people can, not all people, but most people can juggle if they really put the effort in. Then you tell them, most people can juggle. And say, really? Most people? I thought you had to be born with that skill. No, no,
Oh,
no.
so let's also jump back to another NLP term. There are assumptions, right? Like, so you've told yourself that you can't do something, so your mind won't look that way or go down that avenue until you come into more information, which would be understandable for unconscious incompetence. Like you've told yourself you can't do this thing. Well,
Right. And let's just go there for a second and play with that because when you tell yourself you can't do anything, your unconscious just shuts off those things it would take to learn that, and you just say I can't. This is what we teach. One of the basic things we teach is that take that can't and say we're working on, because when you can't do it, then your unconscious won't even try. So or won't work on it.
it's kind of like shooting yourself in the foot before you even get
Yeah.
going.
And so what we want to do with most people is say, take those can'ts and say, I will work on, I'm working on. And because if you don't want to learn it, it's
Yeah, don't
hard.
say you can't
Nobody's
do
going to,
it. Just say something like, I don't want to learn how to do that. Like, oh, that's
yeah,
fine.
that's
Not that you
okay.
can't. If you don't want to learn, that's fine. Just don't tell
Right. And
yourself you can't, right? Like you can.
so now we're still down here on unconscious competence. Now we decided we didn't know, and now we talked to somebody and said you can't say I can't, because if you say you can, it knocks it out. Now we're saying we're going to work on it, and now we got to figure out what we're going to work on. Are we going to work on juggling? Okay, now we know Now we go to the step up,
Yeah,
conscious
which was the one ball,
incompetence.
up and down, which
Right.
becomes conscious incompetence. Like, well,
Yeah,
we
because
know
you
this
got
is the first
there,
step.
you
Yeah.
know you want, and this is the first thing you do. You gotta start somewhere. So you start there. You got a ball, you know you want to juggle. So the first step is, throwing it in the air and now catching it. Now, the reason why we do it 10 times is because if you can do something 10 times, your unconscious is pretty much can do it. Okay. Now we bring in the second ball. We're still on conscious incompetence. And then after a while, when we're throwing these balls in Vine, and just say we got one round, okay, where we threw it all three balls one round. Now we got conscious,
Competence.
yeah. And so we
So
got
you
that
can
we
do
juggled.
it.
We know we can do it now. We don't have a doubt that it can be done. Before we doubted that it could even be done by us. Now we've decided, now every
Let's
time,
get a little better at this.
yeah, and every time we drop, we know it's just it's every time we drop is actually a good drop because we pick it up and we start again, and then we keep on learning and learning and learning. And after a while, let's just say you've been doing it 2 weeks and you've juggled 10 minutes a day for 2 weeks. Within 2 weeks, you can probably do 3 to 5 rounds with not even thinking it. So the basic of that cascade is pretty much unconscious competence. Okay, in a week. Now you got to decide. You got to go way back down to the bottom again and decide: are we going to learn a trick?
Or are there tricks available?
Right, and then we got to decide what's the next step. But we do this and everything in life. This is all, and it's you could go to driving a car. You could do the exact same skill. Actually, you could use this on anything in
How
life.
about building a business?
Building a business. What's the first step? One is deciding
Oh,
what
I
a
can't build a
business.
business.
Yeah, or deciding that you want to build a business. That's the first step. Do you want to build a business? Then the next step is deciding, are you going to? And then you say yes. Then the next step is what kind of business? Okay. You got to figure out what kind of business. And then we go to the well-formed outcome. We bring that one in right there to say, what kind of business do we want? What would this business do for you? Do we have all the resources we need to do this business on our own? Do we have to get help? Do we have to learn something new? Now we're still at this unconscious competence because we have no clue at this point. Now we got to figure out what all things. Yeah, that's a map.
I'm trying to get to a better image of the meta model. So that's why you use the meta model to
Yeah.
unassume your brain. Like
Well,
you're asking
yeah,
questions.
well, because the reason why we're going to use the well-formed outcome is because a lot of times we put a lot of effort in something and then we find out we didn't even want to do what we are doing. Now, juggling is kind of different. Juggling's not going to hurt you in any way unless you're using the knives at first, probably. but people have to decide. But the same thing with the juggling is pretty much you juggle your bills, your business, your wife, your kid, your life, your cars, your insurance, everything. Excuse me. Excuse me again. Anyway, so we're juggling our entire life. My goodness,
You'll be all right over there?
my unconscious is kicking me. What the heck are you talking about, buddy? And so we're doing this every day, and then a lot of times people, what they even in juggling, you come to a plateau. So you plateau out whatever you're doing, your business or what. Now you got to decide: do you just trudge through that, or do you go right or left or veer off just for a bit to see, that plateau if you need to learn something else to get to that next level? And sometimes, like in juggling, you might have to work on two balls in one hand to get that right hand where it catches has a stronger right throw. And then you might have to work two in the other hand so you can become a stronger juggler. In business, you might have to say, uh, you know, what do I have to sell? I mean, you got to sell something if you're doing that, or you got to sell yourself. I mean, you're a product too. And uh, then do you know what do you need to do to, when somebody hires somebody, then they're an employee, but they have tasks. They have to do the same thing about if they don't know what they're supposed to do, they have to figure out what that is to stay employed. And it's the same thing with life. And then what we bring in later when you're doing all this is, uh, uh, boy, it just shot me when I had it. It's like, it, okay, so always in life, there's going to be an obstacle here or here or here or here. And it's not the obstacle that matters, it's how you deal with this obstacle. Do you let this obstacle take over, or do you say, what do I need to learn to get over this hump and go to the next step? And how do you address it? Do you go, woe is me, and you go, oh, or do you say, I'm strong like Scott? Ah, there's nothing stopping me, by gollies. I don't care what that thing is. I'm going to take it on and beat it to death with my
I'm
head until
stubborn.
I overcome it. You know,
I'm stubborn.
no, it's okay. It's just but and in life the same way, just as in juggling, you're going to come up with those things. I mean, then you might get proficient, and then you might move on to four balls. Now you're doing two in one hand, two in the other, and then you might want to do five. Then now you're juggling a lot of things. But it's just a same thing as life. First you go through high school and you graduate. Then you decide if you're going to college and you go do that. Now you got a few degrees or a degree, and you come out, and what are you going to do? Are you going to work in your degree, or are you going to go somewhere else? Then you get a job, and then you do that for a while, and then it's like you either love it, hate it, or want to do something else. Not there's more in there. There's the middle ground. I didn't mean there's no gray areas, but you decide it might not be what you want to do, or if it is. Now we're juggling. Now we got a job, but now we're lonely, and uh, maybe somebody we want to have a relationship. Now we have two things to juggle. We have a relationship, and that could be with your family, friends, or a partner. And then if let's say then you marry, now you got a commitment there. And now you got the business and the marriage. But then you might have a kid. Now there's another ball or another thing to think about. Now you got to worry about your business, your wife or husband or them or they or whatever. I don't know, whoever your partner is. And then you have to, if you have a kid, then you got to worry about their needs too, because now you're responsible for another thing. But then all that is not, now you got your insurances, you got your business, so it keeps on going. So what we want to do, just like in juggling, we want to get it where it's unconscious. So a lot of this stuff we already know how to do so we can take on the next thing. So whenever you're doing anything in life, whatever you're good at, get that down. And now you don't have to think about it anymore. Now, what's the next step for whatever you're doing? And then go learn some more. And we're always in a process, not always, but most of the time, we're in a process of learning more. Because when we stop learning, we go more stagnant. And
Learn and create stuff. So yeah, basically the when we're I don't know how to juggle at the moment, maybe someday I'll go. But when it comes to building a business, like you learn how to do one thing and you want to make sure that you get so good at that one thing that it becomes automatic or not a lot of thought goes into it because you've already executed this one thing. So the way I look at it is my booking system for booking clients for my company is that a lead comes in, a copy paste, send out. Don't even think about it. Lead comes in, copy paste, send out. I mean, I'm on to another project, right? So I got to train this other guy to make sure he's good for his show. Come on over. Okay, so I responded to this lead. I'm training this guy, and it may look like somebody like it may look complicated or easy, or depending on how you look at it. Right? But this stuff just operates in the background while I've already set it up, type thing. So how many things can you juggle and have automation take care of things for you so that you can focus on the whatever it is that's most important to you? Because when you're dealing with small business owners, they are really good at whatever their task is, and maybe they don't sit in front of a computer all day like someone like me figuring out how to get more leads or clients or something like that. But it becomes easy because you have to, well, start and fail a few times, figure out what doesn't work. Like Elon, right? Like, oh, let's see how many rockets we could shoot up and blow up before we figure out where the pressure points are. And as long as you know when you go into something, or just life in general, that things are going to happen, right? Is how when you get older, you're just going to be able to bounce back easily, and even things that were bothering you like 5 years ago won't even be bothering you today because you've already been through that. And if you look at a new challenge or a new task, or something didn't go quite right, you'd be like, well, okay, well, I got over that thing. I'm sure I could get over this thing too. How long is that going to take me? How eager are you to get that taken care of? Are you assuming that you can't do things? Are you forward thinking? Are you going to be able to take the balls or the pins and throw them up and be able to do it? Or do you want to sit back and watch somebody else do it? Now, it all depends on the person. So, how motivated are you? There's Richard Bandler out there. He had this great metaphor about he went into a hospital and he ended up, plucking somebody's hair out, or hitting somebody with. Hit somebody with a hammer. I don't even know if this stuff is true or not, but it was a story he told. And the whole point of the metaphor was that you have to get, emotionally involved in order to make things happen. So if you're doing the same thing all the time and expecting a different results, then that's probably not going to be good for you. That's the definition of insanity. So take a step back. What kind of results do you want? Are you getting the results that you want, or are you learning to get to the next step? Me, I try and learn as much as I can to see how many things I can juggle at once. And sometimes I think I've hit a barrier, but I'm able to push past it because I just won't accept no for an answer. Like, I just won't accept it. So if I have my mind set on something, and I hope you do too, that you'll be able to get it accomplished, because it's all about having a better quality of life instead of, whimpering in the shadows or whatever, because you can get past it. And wherever you're at now, realize that you may be assuming something is not going to work out if you haven't given it a shot, or if you haven't talked to somebody who's been where you're at and been able to push past that point. Like, it's all right not to know how to do it. That's the whole point of, like, learning and growing. And as long as you're just looking at life as, okay, well, this stuff happens to everybody, like, what can I do about it? I mean, just learn and not make the same mistakes and just keep moving forward. But yeah, I haven't trained myself how to juggle, but I know what it's like to be on stage. Okay, so I know what it's like to be on stage, answer incoming lead emails, sending out contracts all at the same time while leading while leading a dance and answering text messages, and nobody knows the difference. But I've been doing it for so long that it just becomes natural.
Unconscious competence.
Unconscious confidence. Yeah, I remember Dion. We were like 3 or 4 minutes from the doors opening. We're all set up. I'm getting ready to DJ. He's like, the doors are going to open. I'm like, I'm sending this contract out before I hit play. That's what it takes. Like, that's the path that I choose. And well, maybe I figured out a few things along that path that if you haven't. And again, you can always go to the website or reach out, comment on the video, and get the path moving. It doesn't, as long it can even be backwards, because if you're not moving, then you're not going to be able to go anywhere. And if you go backwards, then you'll figure out how to go twice as far further, in the right direction. As long as you're clear on what the goals are, you go through some of the videos that we have the well-formed outcome. Get clear on what the goals are, because if you're aiming at a target and not hitting it, at least at least you have a target to aim at. Like, oh, didn't hit that one, but let's see if we can get a little closer on the next one. Like, but yeah, it's
Well,
kind of where I'm at.
right there is when you start, is the first thing you're asking yourself, can I do this on my own, or would it help to get some more information or learn something? And that's what you're juggling and everything you're doing too. Um, Many years ago, Scott and I were talking, and Scott Scott's very good with computers and good with business and everything. And I was saying, uh, I don't know how to do this thing on the computer. And he says, oh my God, man, that's so easy. And you don't know how to do it. And I was like, I felt a little hurt there. My buddy just telling me how shitty it was just because I didn't know something. I said, well, why don't you come over here and juggle knives on a roll of bowls, spinning a plate in your mouth, balancing water on the head? This is a very easy trick. Why don't you come do that for me? And, and then he got it. Basically, things become easier to you and everyone else when you do them more often and then you get it to unconscious competence. But again, with the car, you probably were afraid the first time you got on a highway, if you're driving on the highway now, and thinking, oh my God, zoom, 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 zoom. But after a while, after driving for a certain amount of time, you're going, it's just a thing. I got to get to work. I'm going this way, and here we go.
I
And
think a
then,
big
go ahead.
issue is that everybody wants to pass off judgments. So with everything with social media and everybody hating people, it's like you end up coming up with these false versions of what reality really is because you probably get trapped in what somebody else may be thinking. So ask yourself this: Are you moving in a direction that might please somebody else but not beneficial to you because you're worried about what somebody might think of you? That's something to really self-reflect on. And here's another question: If you're um changing what you want to do to make somebody else happy, is is their level of happiness going to reach what you think it should reach, or should you just be who you are and then have the people that attract to that be in your life because they'll be liking, the real person instead of having to change what you're doing depending on who's in front of you.
Well, right there, we're talking about authentic happiness. Basically, are you living your life for somebody else, or are you living your true, authentic life? You know, everything, not every single thing, but a lot of things around us persuade us one way or another. Uh, Jared Diamonds, you got to get a Jared Diamond, or you don't love your girlfriend, okay, or boyfriend, whatever. Uh, so that's a commercial. So we get bombarded by all this excess. The external world's coming at us at all the time. We have to, if you're going to find more happiness, this is why we would work on a bunch of different happiness skills, is because, like he was saying before, is you'll get resilient. He gets resilient in his business, and if something happens, he's already knows he can conquer almost anything because he's done it before. And this is the way with the happiness too, is are you living for somebody else? And not that if you live and you depend on somebody else for anything, now you're starting to be codependent. Now, a good thing to do is figure out, assess what you want and why do you want it. Now we're breaking down the meta model again. What do you want and why do you want it? And when you get that,
How many things can you juggle?
yeah, how many things can you juggle? And then it's somebody working on persuading you to a place you don't want to go. So that's why we haven't talked about it right now, but your value system. See, because when you go against your value, you're going to go against your self-esteem, and you're going to, a lot of times get lower self-esteem. So are you working? So a good thing to figure out, what are your values? What do you want? Is somebody else persuading you somewhere you don't want to go? And go where what's right for you, because the more you veer off of that, the less happiness you have. Now we're veering off from the juggling, but it's still the juggling thing. We learn. Now we got to learn how to take care of ourselves. And sometimes we have to veer right, left, or go straight, just like in a boat or a plane. We have to adjust to what's working and not working. So every once in a while, it's okay to sit down and even get a pencil and paper. Where do I want to go? And I think I don't know if it, anyway, one of the podcasts I was doing, I was talking about, are you doing, I think it was ours, and basically, are we going towards our goals or away from them, our habits? I think it wasn't us. We were talking about the habits,
Yeah.
right? Okay. So the habits, are we got good habits, bad habits, and are the habits working for us? Same way with the juggling. If you're juggling in one hand and you're always veering off to the right, you want to move your hand in. You want to use different techniques to get better at juggling. And the more you do it, the better you get. And the same thing with your moving away from the goals or the habits that's not working for you towards the other habits. And the same way with the business is remember to take your wins and understand, what are you winning at, and focus on the wins, not on the ones you didn't win at. Know what they were, and then move towards more wins, and just keep on getting more wins. And this is also going to give you happiness, resilience, also confidence, also, and then when you get a little bit up in this level, then you really do want to figure out your value system. Because, like he was saying right there, is if you're going against your values, then you're is it your true authentic happiness, you know? And then later on, if you want to even be at a bigger level of happiness, find a purpose and a goal. Purpose and meaning in life will give you more, and you just keep on going up that ladder of happiness, then you get more happiness, resilience. And this wasn't really going to be I know I'm always about happy, yeah, but you know, every time you succeed in business, somewhere in your brain, you're probably going, yeah. And that gives you a happiness point.
That's what it is for me. The thrill for the hunt and then the sign, and it's like, oh wow. I remember when I wasn't really good at this. You know?
And and see, that's what you want to find also is passion in what you want. You know, find what you want to do and then find the passion and it'll drive you to get it even more. So a lot of times when you want something, write down all the reasons why you want it. The more reasons you have, the easier it's going to get you motivated to go get what you want. And
There you have it. I think that pretty much conclude for today. Thanks guys for visiting. Make sure to follow, like, subscribe, tell your grandma. I don't know.
we'll keep trying to juggle.
Hashtag barbecue brisket.